Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sell More Academy, the mastermind for more sales. My name is Ben McGarry, and for the last 2 decades, I've spent nearly every single day trying to figure out how to sell more stuff. I've been in the trenches selling my own products and services for years. I built teams, companies, and systems that sell from Main Street, small town USA, all the way to Wall Street. And I've been fortunate enough to coach and consult for countless others worldwide, all in totaling over $150 million in sales. During that time, it has become painfully obvious that the marketplace is and always will be loud and noisy. These days, content creators and social media gurus promote clickbait tactics and short-sighted strategies that often cause more harm than good. It seems like everyone has all the tools at their fingertips, but nobody really knows how to put it all together. Plus, what worked yesterday might not work today and will almost certainly be different again by tomorrow. And that's precisely why I started Sell More Academy, to build a community and a set of resources to help you stay ahead of the curve, to help cut through the noise and make sense of the next best step. At Sell More Academy, we focus on what we consider to be the 5 pillars of modern business success: AI, branding, marketing, sales, and systems. We bring this to you through a powerful combination of a vibrant mastermind community where you can connect with and learn from fellow high achievers and experts in the field, live masterclasses just like this one, where we dive deep into the strategies and tactics of each pillar, covering one per day, a curated collection of resources, including free tools that we're building to help you sell more effectively, and our Sell More directory, connecting you with the pre-vetted providers and solutions that you need when it's time to outsource or just find the right tool for the job. Our goal here is simply to provide you with everything that you need to not only stay informed and competitive, but to sell a lot more stuff. And that brings us to today's masterclass, where we're diving into marketing, specifically building a system that will capture leads everywhere that your customers already are. So let's just kind of start with a question here. If our main lead source disappeared tomorrow, if the algorithm changed or the platform shut down or just the rules shifted, how long would our business really survive? A week? A month? Would we even know where to start rebuilding at this time? Most of us really don't like to think about that, but it's the reality that most businesses do depend on a single channel. And we've all seen it happen. I mean, Facebook ads that worked years ago suddenly cost 3 times as much as they used to. Instagram reach that dropped 70, 80% overnight. A Google update that just absolutely buried our rankings. LinkedIn changes who gets to see our post. All of these things happen without our control. And it's not just the marketing team that is impacted by this. When the leads dry up, the sales team has nothing to work. Fulfillment ends up slowing down, and the whole company ends up feeling it. So one channel, one point of failure is really just one bad day away from having to start over, maybe from losing everything. And so the fix isn't to flip and just be everywhere doing everything. It sounds appealing, but that's a recipe for burnout. We've tried it, and that looks like posting on a bunch of different platforms, running ads, doing email, doing videos, and then just none of it ends up connecting. So the fix here is to build a machine, a system where every single channel feeds into one hub. Every piece of content that you create serves a specific purpose, and every lead has a very clear path forward. Today, we're covering that machine. We'll go over the 3 key components: a site that actually converts, lead magnets that capture information at every stage, and traffic programs that feed the system. By the end of this, we'll have a framework for being everywhere that your customers are without burning out trying to be everywhere. So let's dive right into the lead machine. The lead machine is terminology that we use here. For the last few years, I've actually been fortunate enough to work with countless businesses across the country and setting up, designing and then setting up and delivering lead machines for them. So what we're going to talk about is building a system that reliably brings you leads. We call this a lead machine. This isn't about chasing the next shiny platform or hoping that some algorithm, magically finds you and favors you. It's about creating a durable, predictable engine for your growth. The core idea is simple but powerful. You have to be everywhere that your customers are. If you're only on one channel, you're leaving money on the table and putting your business at risk. So we need to stop relying on single points of failure and start building a true machine. So we'll start by looking at just why the old way of doing things is failing us. We call this the four horsemen here. The old way of marketing is dying. It's being killed off by these four horsemen. And you guys know this. One day your organic reach is great, and the next, an algorithm change just wipes out your traffic overnight. That's algorithm dependency. Then there's cost inflation as well. We're all seeing the ad costs climb faster than our margins are keeping up. It's just unsustainable. It's an unsustainable race to the bottom. And as more people jump into the same platforms and into the same markets, we hit market saturation. It's just more noise that makes it even harder to capture attention. And depending on any single channel is really the enemy of any type of sustainable growth that you're going to have. And so this is why we need a new approach, because the audience is just more scattered than they've ever been. We talked about why relying on one channel is dangerous, and the reason is really simple. Your audience is fragmented. They're everywhere. This isn't like it used to be where everybody and relatively everybody was sitting in front of either their TV, listening to the radio, or reading the newspaper. There are multiple channels for us to utilize. There are multiple places within those channels for us to kind of hide out and hang out. And so what we want to do with the lead machine is pinpoint the right ones. Your next best lead could maybe come from a podcast, from a newsletter, or maybe some niche social platform that you haven't even heard of yet. The data confirms this. Most consumers research across multiple channels before they ever buy anything. Businesses that use 3 or more channels see nearly 300% higher purchase rate. 300% higher purchase rate. That's crazy. This isn't some kind of just suggestion of a way to get a couple more leads. It's really a requirement for winning in today's market. If you're only focused on one spot, you're creating that massive point of weakness for your entire company. So we can see the stats. We know that audiences are more scattered than ever, more than literally ever in history. There's more places for us to go and get information and be influenced and so on. So how do we actually fix this fragmentation and build a machine that can reach them everywhere? Well, when we build a lead machine, we use a 1-3-7 framework. Now, this is just a blueprint for building your lead machine, and it gives you something that you can build on top of. It's designed to give you some level of control and some predictability over your lead flow, over your sales, over your revenue, over your fulfillment, all of it. And so the framework breaks down your marketing efforts into just these 3 kind of distinct components. So the first thing that you need is an optimized site. Now, we use website here, but that could truly be a funnel. I recommend a website in this instance, and that funnels live with inside of your website. But for the simplicity of it, we're just going to call this a website. You need a centralized hub that everything comes to. This is the where people are looking for more news, where people are looking for information, where they're trying to figure out your products, your pricing, your services, about you, how to get in touch. There's a lot of information that we want ahead of time, and when we're making purchases. And the idea of a lead machine is to put that information in the right position. So we want to have one website, the truth is, this is really, of all the things that we do and that we build in business, this is one of the only true assets that we own, at least in the digital space. If we're dependent on a channel, we don't own that traffic source. If we're dependent on our website, we own that. So once somebody lands there, we have their contact information. We can reach out to them. It doesn't matter if Zuckerberg changes something. It doesn't impact the people that have come to your website. So you control the way it looks, the way it reads, the way it feels, the call to actions, the offers, absolutely everything. And maybe most importantly, what happens after they land on your site. So when we say that this is truly the only asset you own, understand that it's because it's completely in your control, as opposed to these others where you may have some type of limitations in place. So the second thing you need is you need these strategic lead magnets. Now, the target that we use is 1, 3, and then 7, but you could start with a single lead magnet. Start with a single site, start with a single lead magnet and a single source, and then add from there. The idea of the lead magnet is to act as a bridge that converts the visitors that land on your site into actual leads that you can work. And then finally, you need traffic sources. We use 7 because it creates a good balance. However, you could have as many as you want. When we are doing this for other people and we're mapping out their lead machine, we have 21 different traffic sources that we talk about. And we mix them together for each individual business and market so that we can make sure that we put, the right combination. It's not a set thing. Always use these 7. It's shoot to try to get at least 7 lead sources. And so the reason that we do that is very simple. We've all driven by billboards, and the billboard didn't make us stop and make a phone call or write down a phone number or anything of the sort, or an email address. And that just doesn't happen. What does happen is that becomes an imprint in our mind. And so 7 comes from the rule of 7 in marketing, which is a bit outdated. It's been updated since then, but I love the core philosophy of the rule of 7. And the rule of 7 in marketing states that someone needs to interact or needs to observe your message at least 7 times before they'll interact with it. Then there's a whole level of how many times they need to interact with you before they'll actually become a lead and move forward. And that's a different conversation. But for now, we're focused on how many different touch points are needed before this person would likely become a lead. So if we start with 7 as kind of the minimum, because that's the knowledge that's been there for years, for decades, and then we can continue to increase past there so we could hit the 11 or 12 different touch points that they recommend these days, we have a really, really good base that builds and works together. Once we have these lead sources in, we've found a way to start feeding our machine, and that's how we can make sure that we have a level of consistency, that we're not weighed down by market changes or, as we've already mentioned, social media algorithm changes, or Google makes a change to search, or whatever the case, these things that are outside of our control, we start to bring some of that back into our control because we are building our own list, our own leads, and our own assets. So let's start here by digging into the most important piece, the website. And I say the website because virtually, anyone can drive traffic. But if they click on a page and then they bounce right off, that just costs you money. So that wasn't actually a valuable thing. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have a hub that will actually capture the right type of people. This is, as we mentioned, the only true asset that we own. So if we think of others as rented land, we think of our Facebook page or our LinkedIn page as something that we rent, right? Because they could shut it down tomorrow. They could start charging us tomorrow. They've already started that whole process on basically every platform that there's a paid version now. If they cut off the free platform tomorrow, would your business still have the exact same amount of impact as it has? You may say, well, sure, I would just pay, but that doesn't mean that your clients would. And so you may never actually end up seeing the result from the traffic that you run. As to where with the website, whether it's through search or whatever way that you want to send traffic to it, it's there. It's something that you could literally spend the rest of your life just sending people to your site to understand what you do, and you'll generate business from that. So assuming that your site is good and properly set up and captivating and all of those things, once you have your site set, it should produce for you. So your website is your land. You set the rules here. It has a job to do, and that's not just to look pretty. It's optimized to capture attention and data. It's optimized to educate the prospects on the process and answer any of their core questions. Most importantly, it needs to guide them down a very clear path and convert visitors into leads. Again, we don't just want somebody to land on our page and bounce off. A bounce is somebody who lands and then leaves without visiting a second page. So if we ever see bounce rate on a site, that's what happens. They came, they looked at the landing page, said, this isn't for me, and left. So we wasted our time running that traffic. We wasted our time prospecting. We wasted a lot of time and money as well. So we want to make sure that we can capture them once they come in. So the idea isn't just to create a brochure. And that's why we use the term hub. Hub has kind of everything that you need in one spot. A brochure is something that people just hand out and hope that you call them back. That's the way a lot of websites are set up. They don't have clear call to actions. They don't have clear messaging. They don't answer the core questions that need to be answered for a prospect to feel comfortable moving forward. And so all that happens is a brochure. And in that brochure, we've all thrown away brochures that people have put in our hands. We don't want our website to just be another throwaway for them. So the objective is to, again, capture data, educate the prospects, answer their questions, provide a clear path forward, convert those visitors into leads, and then set up the automated follow-up process. That all starts by sending the right people over to your hub. And once we have this hub locked down, well, then we need to kind of build that bridge that turns our visitors into actual leads. So what do I mean by that? I mean that just because you have a great website that answers all of these, it may not convert. And that's crazy. I'm telling you, you can do all the right things and it may not convert for you. And that's where the magnets come in. If your website is the hub, well, then you need a bridge to get people from the rented land of social media or wherever you're getting that traffic from to your property. The bridge is that lead magnet. Now, there's a lot of talk about lead magnets. You probably heard this. You probably have some idea of what a lead magnet is. So for the sake of this conversation, let's just make this clear. A lead magnet is simply a value exchange. You give them something genuinely useful, and they give you their contact information and permission to follow up. That's it. So when we say value, the word value gets thrown around online, particularly by those content creators and social media gurus. Just lead with value, lead with value, lead with value. What is value? Well, in this world, value is utility. Is this useful, right? You give them something genuinely useful. If it's not useful, it's not valuable to them. Just because it's useful to you doesn't mean it's useful to them. So we really have to understand we have to understand our customer. We need to make sure that we cover the full customer journey, not just the beginning of their search and not just the end of their search. We want to use things like quick guides, checklists in the awareness stage. We want to use, this is when they're just starting to look around. When we get to the consideration stage, we want to offer things like webinars or case studies, just as examples for when they're comparing options. And then finally, we want to use either audits or free trials or maybe even some kind of promo offer for the decision stage to wrap that deal up and move them forward, at least into the next stage. Maybe that's booking a call with you. Maybe that's starting the trial or whatever the case may be. We want to make it very, very easy for them to move forward. So remember, this is about an exchange, right? The exchange can take place in multiple different parts of the journey. So having these three magnets kind of covers three of the core parts. If you've been on for other calls that we do, we talk about 7 stages of market awareness here. And here we're really only focused on 3 of them. And that's because we want to make sure that we start somewhere that is attainable for everyone. I encourage you, once you have these 3 magnets set up, that you're continuing to look for more different ways that you can provide value in an ethical way in exchange for the email or the contact information and the permission that you're receiving from them. So we've seen these in a lot of different contexts. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that people constantly tell me lead magnets won't work for my industry. And when they use lead magnets, if they do, they try to position just a consultation call as a lead magnet. The kicker is the value in that is for you and not for them. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that they get some kind of gain out of this, whether or not they buy from us afterward or not. So when we're doing this, what we're doing is we're taking the anonymous visitors. Now I know it seems like how would they be anonymous? Well, because Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, they're not giving you the data of who clicked through. They're just telling you that people did click through. So they're essentially anonymous when they land on our website, on our hub, right? And so what we want to do is take them from being anonymous into actual leads that we can follow up with. This should seem almost elementary, but most sites, if I pulled up 100 sites right now, I'm willing to bet that 70% or more are not in a place to actually capture leads or convert lead or prospects into leads. So what we want to do is make sure that we're set up properly from the very beginning in order to make sure that we don't have to worry about that. So now we have magnets, right? We have different types of magnets that reach different stages. I want to say real quick that these suggestions that are here, like checklists, quizzes, quick guides, those are simply just that, suggestions. A lot of what we're doing now with lead magnets are actual like mini SaaS. Like we'll go build a piece of software that helps them with their business, and then we'll put it in there. Good examples of lead magnets could be the resources that we're building right now. So if you go into the resources tab, go into learning, and then go to the sell more resources, you're going to find tools in there that we're building for our community members. You could very easily create a tool that you offer out to your prospects before they become leads in order to let them become a lead for you. One of the examples of an industry that claims that this stuff doesn't work for them, but they've done a great job, is the hotel industry. And so there's a commercial that's running now. I believe it's still running. It's a good one, so it'll probably run for a while. And I think it's from Choice Hotels. I could be wrong, but something in my mind says Choice Hotels. And the commercial is it's a TV commercial that runs or a streaming commercial that runs, and it's for a download of a time off request generator. So in an industry where it's like, well, lead magnet would never work for us, or we're just going to give away a free room or a discount on a room or whatever the case, what they did is they went upstream and they said, well, before people could book with us, they need to get time off. So what if we give them the ability to get time off better, more time off, whatever the case may be, right? Better quality messages that more often get approved than not. And so by creating that, they created a better set of perfect prospects because they already had time off work. So that's just one example of a way that an industry that thinks this doesn't apply has used this and is absolutely just killing it with it. So we've got our lead magnets that convert people. They act as the bridge. They convert our anonymous visitors into leads, but we need to know how to actually get those anonymous visitors there. So we're kind of working backwards here. We start with our hub. Then we need to build some bridges. Now we're going to go back and get traffic. So now we should be able to send traffic through our bridges to our site, or to our site and then into the bridges. Either way, we're ready for the traffic phase of sending people toward what we've been building. So once we have the magnets, we're going to feed our system through this kind of ecosystem of different traffic programs. And this is really focused on the diversity of location, not just volume. And so at the beginning, when I talked about, you don't want to just go post absolutely everywhere, because that's not really what we're looking for. What we're looking for is the diversity of making sure that we're in the different places that people go. Now, this really comes back to understanding that customer journey again, because in the early stages, maybe we are willing to go to Facebook and ask people for their advice. Make a post. I need help. What do you guys think? In the consideration stages, maybe we're ready to talk to somebody that's a little bit more professional, somebody who is certified or verified in some way, shape, or form for this thing that we're after. And then afterward, we're fine with looking at, purchase reviews, things of the sort, right? You think about like Amazon. Most people are jumping down to those reviews. And so what we want to do is create this entire ecosystem that meets them at the right places. So if we're creating our lead magnets in accordance with that, then they should convert really, really highly. So within this ecosystem, the key distinction here is that from a terminology standpoint, we use the terminology traffic programs. Now, you may hear the terminology marketing channel thrown out, and I want to make a very clear distinction. Oftentimes, I'll tell you throughout Sell More Academy that words are the same thing and that marketers are just spinning them off to be their own thing so they can package it up and sell it. But these are different. So when you hear marketing channels, when people say, oh, we do multi-channel marketing or omnipresent marketing, oftentimes, particularly with multi-channel marketing, that's what they're doing is they're just trying to check off as many boxes as they can, and that's fine. However, a traffic source or a traffic program, interchangeable there, would be a category above that. And so when we talk about a traffic source, it would include multiple marketing channels within that. So our 7 traffic programs are focused on the source, not the channel. So what I mean by that is when we look at paid, we're looking at channels like, well, you could have paid ads that come from Facebook. You could have paid ads that come from Google. You could have paid ads that come from LinkedIn. You could have TikTok, so on and so forth, right? You can have all these would fall into our paid ad category. And a good way to think about this is if you were to hire somebody for each of these positions, this is kind of how you would break it down. This is our media buyer or our paid ad specialist. They handle all of the different ad platforms that we advertise on. Next, we have our social. Social is going to include the organic and the community type thing. So organic posting, comments, joining groups, responding to people, creating a presence, right? And some of that can be automated. Some of it can be done manually. It's just about making sure that we hit the different channels. And so within there, those channels could be Facebook organic, Instagram organic, LinkedIn organic, TikTok organic, and so on and so forth. So it should, hopefully by now, you're starting to understand that there's the traffic program with multiple different marketing channels that fall within that umbrella. So here we're showing paid traffic, we're showing social leads, we're showing database leads. Now, database is something like you're running reactivation campaigns. You are making sure that once people come in and they get past your initial follow-up sequence, that they don't die on you, that they go into whether it's a newsletter, an SMS campaign, some type of buyback, conquest, upsell, something of the sort that you use what's in your database. For marketers, we've heard for years that your money's in your list. You know, for every person that you have on your email list, you should make $1 a month from that. And so if you have 10,000 people on your email list, you should make $10,000 a month if you're consistently hitting your database. And so for a lot of businesses, what happens is we're so focused on acquisition that our database continues to grow and grow and grow without being nurtured. And so while we think that, hey, we have 100,000 leads in here, really because they were never nurtured, most of them died off. They forgot who you were. They don't even remember coming to your site. The window of consent maybe has expired, you know, particularly when we think about things like social messengers, you know, those things expire. And so if that's our only way of communicating with that person, then our database program is not going to be very effective. So we definitely want to make sure when it comes to the database that up front we capture as much data as we can to make sure that we have multiple ways to get in touch with them. But then on the backside that we're just constantly touching it and keeping it clean. So next we have the search leads. So as we mentioned, you know, there's the paid that has multiple channels, social has multiple channels, search has multiple channels. So with search, we often think about SEO, but 9 times out of 10, we only think about Google, right? Just Google search. Well, there are a lot of other places that people search. Google and Facebook control like 50% of the internet searching, or in YouTube. What about the other 50%? Those people need your business as well, or need to do business with you as well. So here we are focused on things like SEO and AEO, but we're also focused on making sure that we can find the different places. So for instance, just to give you some real examples, Bing still has a very large search volume. It's nowhere near Google, don't get me wrong, but the competition is also nowhere near Google. That could be a really good opportunity if your marketplace, if your audience uses Bing. That's something for you to research. If so, you have another channel that could fall under search. When it comes to finance, financial people, people that are maybe in retirement, in the wealth stages, the affluent, you might actually have better luck advertising or focusing your search, not advertising, but focusing your search on Yahoo Finance. It's crazy to even say that name in 2026 Yahoo, but Yahoo Finance specifically is used a lot, a lot by those people that I've already mentioned. When it comes to PR and media, this is really, this is really a secret weapon for any business. And I think just about every time we've presented this lead machine to folks, this is the part they've pushed back on is PR and media. But I want to pause for 1 second and just talk about brand. So for the last few weeks, we've really dove deep into branding and what brands mean. And the kind of common terminology that we keep leaving you with is that your brand is what people say when you're not in the room, right? How people feel about you when you're not in the room. And so when we're talking about PR is the intentional act of getting other people to talk about you. There is no better form of advertising. Tesla's famous for not advertising. It's all been from other people talking about it. And obviously they have a founder that talks about it a lot. There are multiple other major name brands that that you've probably never seen a commercial for. Maybe it's because you're not the right demographic, and so they never showed it to you. Or maybe it's because they don't run commercials. It's very rare that any of us at all will ever see a Rolex commercial while we watch television. There's a kind of a famous quote, and don't know if it's even true, but it came from Lamborghini, and he said, "We don't advertise on TV because our customers don't watch TV." Right? So the good thing about PR is that PR puts your message in their words where they are, not where you are. And so it's a huge aspect. And whether that is going on podcasts, joining, here at the Academy as a guest, whether it's having articles written about you or writing your own PR releases, speaking engagements, really any opportunity that you have to be out in front of people, people are going to write about it. People are going to talk about it. And when people are talking about you, ideally in a controlled way, not all press is good press, but when people are talking about you, then the word can get out. And so that is a very, very big part of this. While you figure out which programs work for you, hopefully you do start with 7. Hopefully PR becomes one of them. And there are some resources that are available in the directory, and we can talk about in the mastermind. If you want to get into the PR space, I will help you to figure out what channels work best for you. So moving on, we have that kind of AI and future side of things. And so AI can be looked at as a technology, or it can be looked at as a traffic source. And so the reason that we look at it as a traffic source or traffic program is because we understand a different demographic exists. And I actually fall into that demographic about 80% of the time. And it's the group that doesn't want to get on the phone. I protect my calendar. I don't get on phone calls. If I can't get the information I need from your site, we're probably just not going to talk. If I can't get the pricing, if I have to submit a contact us just to find out what the next steps are or get basic FAQs answered, I'm probably not going to move forward, right? And so I think everyone that watches this can understand that there are more people like that than ever. There are more texters than ever. Not to say that some people don't appreciate a phone call. I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying that there are more people that would rather actually get my information, regardless of whether it comes from a human or AI, at the time that I want it, than having to wait. And so that's why we consider AI as its own traffic program, because between things like chat, voice, logistics, the different tools that we've already mentioned, vibe coding and using as lead magnets, as we go through those, we're bringing in a different source of customers than we would with, say, the phone or with a paid ad or whatever the case. So this is as simple as training an AI that can answer the basic questions that you used to answer when you first answered the phone, right? The first 5 or 6 questions that come out. And so If you want to talk more about how to train your AI, we'll definitely get into that in the future. But ultimately, the key here when we're talking about the ecosystem side is FAQs. If you can have your AI answer FAQs, you're going to get more leads, period. Because if I need a question answered at 2 a.m. and I can't get it from your site, I'm going to go to the next one. And if they answer those questions, you never got the shot. I'm still just an anonymous visitor on your page. So that's where AI really comes in. And then the kind of final one that we have listed here is video. And video is beautiful because it just absolutely powers all the others. It kind of overlaps all of the others in a good way. You can take, just like we do, you can take this video, you can use it for something internal. You could use it for, you could go put it on, now, not that we do this, but you could go put it out on a channel like YouTube or Vimeo or Rumble or wherever you host your videos. We've already gone through our content process last week, so you know that we chop these up, we turn them into infographics, we turn them into blogs, we turn them into all kinds of things. All of that is originated because of the video. And so the video allows us to say, okay, well, we could have video in paid traffic, we could have video on social, we could have video in our database, channels, we could have video really in search. If we want to capture people quickly, that's a great way to do it. The PR and the media is obviously video. That can start to get a little more expensive. A lot of press releases are printed, think more like the newspaper than digital side of things. But that is a big part of it. And so obviously you can play in with AI as well. You could send AI clips to people whenever they ask certain questions instead of just answering and say, oh, here's a video that explains it. And so you can use video to kind of jump into all of those. So just don't remember that it powers them, and don't silo it. Don't put it off to the side as something else. It really is the thing that can make all your other programs better. If you're already killing it with paid, add video in, and you'll do better. Just all the platforms reward that. And one thing to keep in mind about our demographics, regardless of where you are, what you serve, what you sell, is that the majority of us, at least those that are under 50 years old, are TV babies. And so with that understanding, know that we need visual stimulation, some more than others. If you hear somebody that says, I never read, they need a lot of visual stimulation, right? And so having that video in there really opens up doors that otherwise don't exist. Now, the younger generation, the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, those that are on the younger end of this spectrum I'm talking about, have, if we're TV babies, then they're TikTok babies, right? And it's just not necessarily TikTok the platform, but the idea of shorter form content, right? We see, I actually saw Netflix talking about this recently, where because of our shorter attention span, they have to recap the entire plot 3 to 4 times through a single movie because they know that people will get distracted and forget and then come back to it and need to catch up. And so just think about that. Think about your audience. Video could be the thing that really opens up the doors. If you've been struggling to get leads, if you've been struggling to make sales, try video. See what that does. Okay. So, building on the idea of a resilient system, the ultimate goal of this entire machine is to be omnipresent and have that level of consistency. So again, we're not just focused on multi-channel, we're focused on omnipresence, being everywhere that we need to be. We don't want to have this fragile business that disappears if the algorithm changes or the platform shuts down. Instead, we want to make sure that we have multiple legs on our table, right? We want to have a solid base that we can operate on. And that's what a lead machine will do for you. The one channel, one algorithm, one landlord, thinking of it as our digital pages instead of the piece that we own, is really putting not just your marketing team, but your entire company at risk. To switch over to be resilient means that you're everywhere that matters. You're using multiple roads to reach the exact same destination. So just kind of ask yourself this here. If you disappeared from Instagram tomorrow, would your business disappear? If that answer is yes, or if your business would take a massive hit, then you're fragile. This happens a lot. And when I talk to marketers, one thing I'm always looking for is their history, their duration. Because one thing that became painfully obvious is that if you haven't been through some of these breaks, you don't know what it's like before them. I mean, you haven't seen a full cycle. So if someone started marketing in 2020, that is very different than 2018. In 2000, and really we can go back to 16. In 2017, there was a massive change, I believe, to Google, and that changed everything. Basically, anything that you knew before that had to be reworked and fit into this new way of doing things. And then something happened in 2020 where we had every single person in the world glued, that could be glued to a computer screen. If you threw so much as just threw an ad out on Facebook, if you had an ad to sell anything, somebody was going to click it. Does that actually make somebody a genius? Does that make somebody a solid business? No. And this is what happens often when we hire growth teams. Growth teams come in, they pump up one channel for us, but if that one channel were to fall, then our whole business tumbles. So think of it as a table. Do you want to have one leg that can be as sturdy as you want, or would you rather have 4 of those exact same sturdy legs? That's the objective here. We're putting 7 different legs on our table. That means that if we do disappear from one channel, we may take a hit, but we don't lose our whole business. We want to build a system where our brand is consistently visible across all the channels that our ideal customer actually uses. And having that consistency is what will build and make us the obvious choice for them. Okay, moving on, because I realize we're running a little long here. So we have talked about building a resilient system, but most businesses are fragile because they keep making the exact same mistakes over and over. So the goal here is to stop chasing every shiny new tactic without a solid plan. That's activity without architecture, and it will just eventually burn you out. I can tell you that. The biggest mistake is putting all of your eggs in one basket. You don't have to completely hedge against every single bet by being dispersed, but you want to be very strategically spread out. If you rely on a single platform, you're always going to be in danger. If you have multiple roads, you always have another route. And finally, don't let your website just become a pretty brochure that doesn't convert anything. It needs to have a clear path and a mechanism to capture leads. That's our magnets. Or all that traffic, all that time, all that money is just wasted. If you can avoid these common traps, just these, you're going to be ahead of 90% of your competition. I promise. Now let's look at where your machine might be broken right now. So this is the traffic audit. The first thing that we need to do, we need to know where consistency really needs to be applied first. So every business has some kind of lead machine that could be set up for them, right? So we want to start by looking at the source of what is going on now. Are we actively running programs that bring new people in, or are we just hoping that they show up? We need to move from being vulnerable to resilient traffic sources, so we want to make sure that we get that buttoned up. Next, we want to check that magnet. And so the beautiful thing is, before we even get to the magnet, you can run traffic to see if your ads work, even if you don't have anything to send them to yet. If they click through, great. Now you can work on your lead magnet. If they don't click through the lead magnet, you need to go back and work on it again, and then move to that next step. So you check the lead magnet. Once people actually show up, do they have a compelling reason? Are you giving them some reason, some ethical bribe in exchange for their email? Or is your site just leaky? Are they coming and leaving? A sticky magnet will help capture that data. And finally, you want to check your hub. So go to your website, and what we're looking for here, you see that 5W1H. This is elementary stuff. I mean that. Elementary school, you learned 5W1H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those questions need to be answered on your site, not some creative AI spin that says we unlock business transformation for the future. No, none of that. We need to be very clear about who we serve, how we serve them, where we show, literally all of those questions. Answer all 5 of those questions, not just buried in your FAQs. That's a fine place to put them as well, but these need to be represented in the first fold, the first thing that people see when they open your site, and they need to see it through the next couple, because that's where we're going to have the highest level of traffic. If you've never looked at a heat map, that's just the way it goes. People look at that. Most people aren't for you. They're not a fit. They bounce off. Even the people that believe they are a fit bounce off if they don't think, or that we believe are a fit bounce off if they don't believe they are a fit. So bringing this all up to the top of the page instead of burying it down is a very big part of making sure that your hub is lined out properly. If you go through these and any of these 3 parts are weak, your whole machine is vulnerable. And so we need to fix whatever the weakest link is first and then work our way through those. Make sure that each step of the way you are buttoned up. Okay, we're past time. We covered a lot of ground, from avoiding common mistakes to auditing your traffic and making sure that your machine is ready to go. The goal of all this work is really simple. As we said, to build resilience into your business, to make sure that you can withstand market changes and platform changes. That if the customer, your entire customer base made a sudden mental shift, that you're ready to serve them in that way. When you have a machine that reliably is generating leads for you, you're no longer at the mercy of the market. You're no longer at the mercy of a bad day, week, or month, right? Because you can count on a certain level of consistency within your business. Maybe your social leads dropped, but your paid leads came in higher. Maybe you are seeing that the PR needs a bigger budget in your machine so that you can reduce in another place. By balance these things out, you can create that level of consistency that you need, and that may change through the years, right? In the slow months, in the winter months, maybe you need fewer leads and you need more in the other time. And so you're able to start kind of pulling those levers and adjusting as needed, as opposed to just having one lever to pull and having to really depend everything on it. Every person in your company, everybody, every vendor you do business with, every family that's connected to you, every client that you work with, all of that is in jeopardy if there's leaks here. So again, the objective is not to necessarily go 137. That's the initial framework that we use. The objective really should be have as many lead magnets as your market will accept that they need. There's people that put out a new lead magnet every week. If that's something that's viable for you, do it until you find one that they just can't stop downloading, can't stop exchanging their information for. That's so valuable that it brings people in really regardless of where you use it. That's the objective of your lead magnets, and then making sure that you find the sources. And so to find your sources, you want to make sure that you do customer research. Please do not just guess at where you think people are. Go there, find them, prove that they are there before you spend any time, money, or energy on it. Then if you can do 3 traffic programs, if you can do 7, if you can do 21, great. Add as many as you can until you're at a point where you have so many leads that you need to consider selling leads. That is the only time that I think anyone should ever back off of lead generation, is when they're faced with the very real idea of we need to either expand or sell off leads. That's a good spot to be in. And that's really a way that a lot of these larger companies make money, is they generate so much that they end up feeding the rest of the market. And that's a good position to be in, of course. So the idea here is you get control of your destiny, you get leads, you sell more. That's the only metric that really matters at the end of the day. And that's it for the lead machine. If you have more questions, I'm glad to talk about them. Drop them in the comment below this video if you're in the class vault. Come into the mastermind. Let's talk about this. I'm more than happy to dive into it. And, depending on the conversation that's going on, depending on the day, this is something where we can even help to map out what your lead machine may look like, including your magnets, or, if you need some pointers on your site. If you're part of the Vendiri Plus, then that means you have access to the hot seats, which means you can actually bring your lead machine schematics in, or even just bring the digital version in, and we'll go through it and we'll work on it together live. So if you're part of Vendiri Plus, definitely check out the hot seats. Otherwise, I encourage absolutely everyone to work on your lead machine. This is the work on your business that we've needed to do probably all along instead of working in our business. And this could change everything. By getting this right, you could increase your sales staff and then potentially remove yourself from the day to day. You could hire better fulfillment. You could pay better quality people, pay more to get better quality people. And so this really has the ability to transform everything in your business. And then the thing that's maybe most important to me as somebody who came from the sales world and really loves that marketing side is that once this thing is built, this machine is built for you, it's almost like a big net, right? Because you have all these different ways that it could capture people. So what that does for me is that allows me to say, great, that part is set. I can now go over here and I can just sell. I can just send as many people toward it as I can, whether that's through, regardless of which traffic program I'm using, I can continue to just set up more and more because I know that my magnets are right and they're working, and I know that my hub is converting people into leads so that my automated follow-up can kick in. So that's the whole plan. That's the lead machine. People pay anywhere from about $15,000 to $25,000 to have us install a lead machine for them and giving you all of this information, the blueprint, so that you can go map this out and build it for yourself. I hope that you do so. I hope that you find value from this. And I look forward to the conversations that come from this. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you take these insights and start building right away, build a resilient lead machine that takes care of you and your business for years to come. That's it. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I will see you inside of the community. Go sell more.